Hey everybody, it is Zach Hall, your friendly Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition Dungeon Master learning Pathfinder 2nd edition by doing a first look through each part of the Pathfinder core rulebook. I have no prior experience with Pathfinder 1st edition, no experience with D&D 3rd or 3.5. Only experience in this system is D&D 5th edition, which I've been running for almost 4 years now, both at home with friends, multiple friends, doing birthday parties, one-offs, that kind of thing. So today we are looking at the fighter. If you are interested in any of the other classes, make sure that you check out the rest of this video series, which is put together in a playlist on my channel, which you can click below to find a link for and get details on. What am I expecting from the fighter? Honestly, not a whole lot. I would love some flavor, like some extra kind of little world bits that make the fighter interesting. In the same way that cleric and druid, I wasn't really expecting much, and then I read more, I got more and more excited about the possibility of running these characters. But fighter is one of the classes that honestly feels right to me in 5th edition. There's a lot of different options when it comes to your fighting styles, to your subclass, to, blah, blah, blah. And, while I am sometimes frustrated by lack of diversity in weapon damage, abilities with weapons, the fact that all shields just give you a +2 to AC just out of the bat, can be frustrating, but it all works inside of the 5th edition system. I don't really have any complaints about the 5th edition fighter, so I'm interested to see what Pathfinder can potentially improve on that would make me, excited to play a fighter. And I do want to be up front. I like a fighter. I think a lot of people think it is boring because it's just, I don't know. I think for instance, if I was going to run a level one shot with 4 brand newbies, the newbiest of the newbies, I would probably hand a fighter because they're mechanically simple in 5th edition. Knowing what I've seen out of the Pathfinder mechanics just by looking at the first 3 chapters so far, there's so much more room for creativity. It is a game where once you get into the combat phase of the game, you have to think tactically. Tactics is where the fighter should be the best. So let's take a look and dive into the fighter and go ahead and read our top sheet. Fighting for honor, greed, loyalty, or simply the thrill of battle, you are an undisputed master of weaponry and combat techniques. Yep. You combine your actions through clever combinations of opening moves, finishing strikes, and counterattacks whenever your foes are unwise enough to drop their guard. Whether you're a knight, mercenary, sharpshooter, or blade master, you have honed your martial skills into an art form and perform devastating critical attacks on your enemies. So that, all that is flavor, but tells me what the designers are aiming to do. So we're going to see combat techniques like opening moves and finishing strikes. Counterattacks tell me that we're probably going to get early access to attacks of opportunity and probably abilities or feats that get triggered when using an attack of opportunity to kind of increase damage or reduce speed on hit and that kind of thing. I'm interested in the sharpshooter kind of keyword here. Are we going to see... We have an alchemist that is creating bombs. It is totally conceivable that we could see a gun user, which is lacking, kind of missing from 5th edition, though Matthew Mercer's gunslinger fighter subclass is so pervasive. It's almost... The only thing you can't do in it is basically play an adventure league. But I feel like pretty much any DM around the world is going to let you play Mercer's gunslinger class or subclass for the fighter. So I'd be interested to see if we see a gun user. Key strength or dexterity. So you get to choose between the two. And that's just going to be based on if you want to go melee or if you're going to go ranged. 10 plus con mod is good, since we're most likely going to be taking the most damage, because the idea being you're going to be among the highest damage output on the battlefield, but you're also probably going to be taking the most. You're not going to go glass cannon like a wizard, but yeah, that makes sense. During combat encounters, you strike with unmatched accuracy and use specialized combat techniques. A melee fighter stands between allies and enemies, attacking foes who try to get past. A ranged fighter delivers precise shots from a distance. Okay, so attacking foes who try to get past, that tells me we're definitely going to see early access to attacks of opportunity, specialized combat techniques. I'm interested to see what this is. Is it just, spend an action and, cause circumstantial penalties to the opponent's next attack? Is it going to be like reducing their speed, reducing their AC even? So like we might see things like disarming, disengaging, maiming, hamstringing, that kind of thing. During social encounters, you can be an intimidating presence. This can be useful when negotiating with enemies, but it is sometimes a liability in more genteel interactions. Why can't you have a charismatic fighter too? While exploring, you keep up your defenses in preparation for combat. You keep an eye out for hidden threats. You also overcome physical challenges in your way, breaking down doors, lifting obstacles, climbing adeptly, and leaping across pits. Probably says we're going to be pretty highly proficient in athletics. In downtime, you might perform manual labor or craft and repair armaments. If you know techniques you no longer favor, you might train yourself in new ones. So that tells me that you probably have the idea of maybe re-specializing in techniques. So maybe it's possible to, as they level up, that kind of thing. We just did in downtime. If you've established your reputation, you might build an organization or stronghold of your own. I'd love to see some stronghold rules. They don't exist in 5th edition officially, though. Popular content creator Matt Colville had a very successful Kickstarter really for some stronghold rules that are kind of divisive among the 5th edition homebrewing community. You might know the purpose and quality of every weapon and piece of armor you own. Yeah. Recognize that the danger of an adventurer's life must be balanced out with great revelry or ambitious works. Interesting. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Like for a fighter, I think it makes sense thematically to kind of have an understanding that what you do is inherently dangerous. Fighter is a very thrill-seeking thing to be doing. And that you have to outweigh, like you have to kind of counter the stress and bodily and emotional damage that killing and being in constant melee combat and the stress of it all, you have to counteract that with what they call revelry or ambitious works, which might, different characters will do that, will blow off steam in different ways. Have little patience for puzzles or problems that require detailed logic or study. Let me quick aside, I don't really do this very much, but that one of my favorite stories, actually not one of my favorite, it's probably one of the more frustrating moments of my DMing life was I was DMing for a group of totally new players. Most of my players are brand new. It's the only way I get to play D&D is by DMing it and convincing people that it's fun, and it is. But I had a friend who had a long day, a long week, probably just wasn't in the best mental state. He had been drinking a little bit that night as we were playing, which I don't normally have a problem with. But he was playing Barbarian, and I put a pretty simple puzzle in front of the players, just trying to kind of like show them that there was more than, you know, go to the next village, get a quest, kill some stuff, return kind of thing. And both the player and the character just decided to take a nap while the rest of the group tried to solve the problem and the puzzle. It probably took like 20 minutes. It really wasn't that long. I've heard horror stories of worse. But yeah, the player got up from the table and went and sat on the couch in my living room and pulled out his phone. And he, if anybody tried to engage with his character, he would just say, he's asleep. Really? It's only been like 5 minutes. Yeah, he fell asleep really quickly. Okay. Just remind me of, you have puzzles you have to be careful with, and know your group. Others probably find you intimidating until they get to know you, and maybe even after they get to know you. Expect you're all brawn and no brains, respect your expertise in the art of warfare, and value your opinion on the quality of armaments. Okay, well, that makes sense. Expert in perception, expert in fortitude and reflex saves, choice of acrobatics or athletics, and then 3 additional skills plus your intelligence modifier. So more skills than we were seeing with the champion and cleric. That makes sense. Like, fighters do have to have a variety of tools available to them. Expert in simple and martial weapons, trained in advanced weapons. That's the first time I've seen that. So the idea that there's even a step beyond martial weapons. Then trained in all armor. Okay, makes sense. Yep, right off the bat, attack of opportunity. And shield block. Third level ability, bravery. Will say it gets up to expert. Basically kind of resistance to fear. Surveyor looks like master perception, +2 circumstance bonus to perception checks for initiative. Yep. When you make your daily, at 9th level, when you make your daily preparations, you gain 1 fighter feat of 8th level or lower that you don't already have. You can use that feat until the next daily's prep. You must meet all of the feat's other prerequisites. Wow, that's very cool. I like that. I think that works pretty well. Weapon legend. Fighting techniques apply to all armaments. Proficiency rank for simple and martial goes to master. Advanced weapons proficiency goes to expert. And then you can select 1 weapon group and increase your proficiency rank to legendary for all simple and martial weapons in that weapon group, and master for all advanced weapons. Cool. You learn evasion, or it's called evasion, but it doesn't look anything. It's not like evasion, the classically rogue or ranger ability. I think monks get evasion too in 5th edition. All right, let's check out this call out box here. Key terms. You'll see the following terms in many fighter class features. Flourish. Actions with this trait are special techniques that require too much exertion for you to perform frequently. You can only use 1 action with the flourish trait per turn. Okay. Open. These maneuvers only work as the first salvo in the attacks that you make on your turn. You can use an action with the open trait only if you haven't used an action with the attack or open trait yet this turn. So you can still move, you just can't attack and then use an open maneuver. But you couldn't attack and then open maneuver. Makes sense? Press. Action with this trait allows you to follow up on earlier attacks. An action with the press trait can only be used if you are currently affected by a multiple attack penalty. So that's an interesting way to word it. So you can only use those. I wonder why they specifically did not say they specifically did not say you have to use a press technique after you've already used the attack action or the strike action once this turn. They specifically said when you are currently affected by a multiple attack penalty. Huh. Some actions with the press trait also grant an effect on failure. They don't apply on a critical failure. If they succeed, you can choose to apply the failure effect instead of the success action. Because a press action requires a multiple attack penalty, you can't use one when it's not your turn, even if you use the ready activity. Well, there you go. That's why they worded it that way. That makes sense. Stance. A stance is a general combat strategy that you enter by using an action with the stance trait, and you remain in for some time. It lasts until you get knocked out, until those requirements are violated, until the encounter ends, or until you enter a new stance, whichever comes first. After you take an action with the stance trait, you can't take another one for one round. So you can't change stances in the same round. And you can only be in a stance only in encounter mode. Interesting that they're calling out that this is only something, and they call it encounter mode. You can't be in a stance depending on the bonuses that you get. You can't just do it trying to get across get through a skill check when you're not in combat or like in a social situation or exploration. Very cool. Improved flexibility builds on the 9th level ability where you get 2 feats instead of 1. One has to be 8th level or lower. The other can be up to 14th level. Wow. Versatile legend. Your proficiency goes up. Okay. Excuse me, YouTube. Let's check out the fighter feats, and then we'll be done with this class. 2 weapons. For 2 actions, you can make 2 strikes. Both strikes have the same target, must have the same target. The second strike is made with a weapon doesn't have the agile trait. It takes a -2 penalty. So it's only a -2 instead of the normal -5 for attacking twice. If both attacks hit, combine their damage, and then add any other applicable effects from both weapons. Add only precision damage once to the attack of your choice. Combine the damage from both strikes, and apply resistances and weaknesses only once. Ah, cool. This counts as 2 attacks when counting when calculating your multiple attack penalty. It sounds like in an effort to make sure you don't do double slice every time, it is a -2 penalty on the second strike on top of the normal -5, or is it -2 or 3 if it's agile? So if it is agile, you don't. There's not a stacking penalty, but if it is, you gotta hit it with both. Okay. So I mean, there's definitely trade-offs. Like you might not hit with the second one. Exacting strike for a single action. It's a press. You make a controlled attack, fully accounting for your momentum. Make a strike. The strike gains the following failure effect. This attack does not count towards your multiple attack penalty. Well, there you go. Well, hang on. So press. So you can use as action. I'm trying to figure out if. So, because exacting strike doesn't count towards the multiple attack penalty, but it's a press, so you have to be. The action can only be used if you're currently affected by a multiple attack penalty. So does that mean that you couldn't use a press right after it because the exacting strike didn't count towards a multiple attack penalty? Or maybe I don't know. I might have to have one of you guys or gals or anything in between answer in the comments on this video, and I might hit up the Pathfinder subreddit. Point blank shot. Open and a stance. You don't take the penalty attack rolls from the volley trait. When using a ranged weapon that doesn't have the volley trait, you get a +2 circumstance bonus. Power attack. It's a two action maneuver. Flourish. So you can only do this once per turn. Make a melee strike. It counts as 2 attacks when calculating your multiple attack penalty. So I think it counts as 2 attacks, meaning if you attack again after this, it acts as if it's your third and not your second. So you would take the -10, if I am understanding this correctly. If the strike, but you wouldn't apply -5, a -5, since you're only rolling once. If it hits, you deal an extra die of weapon damage, and then it increases to 2 dice at 10th level or 3 dice at 18th level. Reactive shield. If triggered when an enemy hits you with a melee strike, you can snap your shield in place just as you would take a blow, avoiding the hit at the last second. You immediately use the raise a shield action and use your shield's bonus to AC. And then you can apply that bonus from your shield when determining the outcome of your... cool. Snagging strike. Gives a flat-footed trait or circumstance to an opponent. Sudden charge, quick sprint. It's an opening flourish maneuver. So with 2 actions, you can stride twice, and then as long as you end your movement with a melee, you can make a melee strike against that enemy as a part of this action, which still lets you take a second strike action with your third action of the turn. Cool. As a free action, when you use the shield block reaction, you can make a shove. You can use an aid action with a ranged weapon that you wield. Instead of being within reach of the target, you must be within maximum reach of the target. An assisting shot uses ammunition and incurs penalties just like any other attack. Cool. Brutus shove. With a 2-handed melee weapon, you throw your weight behind the attack. You make a strike. If it's the target's size or your size is smaller, they are flat-footed, and you can automatically shove it with the same benefits as the shove action, including the critical success effect if your strike was a critical hit. As a failure effect, that it becomes flat-footed regardless. So even if you don't successfully shove them, they are flat-footed. Cool. Combat grab. They're grabbed, dueling parry. If you only are wielding a one-handed weapon and you don't have anything else in your other hand. Intimidating strike. You can frighten. As long as you hit and deal damage. Lunge. I feel like there's there's so many feats. And I mean, obviously this is a benefit to the fighter, but also comes into play with their flexibility where you're able to gain a feat on daily prep. A lot of these just are very cool. With your shields up, your enemy's blows can't touch you. When you have your shield raised, you can stride up to half your speed without triggering reactions that are triggered by your movement, such as attacks of opportunity. You can use shielded stride while flying or swimming. Cool. You can hit multiple foes with swipe. You can twin parry when you're wielding 2 weapons. You can get a bonus to... You gain a circumstantial bonus to the damage on this strike equal to the number of weapon damage dice, or that number +2. Okay. Disarming stance. Okay, that's... Oh, I just realized that there isn't a subclass for fighter. It's all just based on how you build your character via feat. I mean, it depends on, are you wielding two weapons in each hand, or like a weapon in each hand? Are you wielding like weapon shield? Are you going just solo weapon with a free hand? You going ranged? Lots of options. You can reveal imperceptible foes to your allies by stabbing them. That's cool. Triple shot. You can shatter defenses if you're striking a frightened foe. Blind fight. Easier to kind of discover hidden creatures. Dueling riposte. Felling strike, incredible aim, mobile shot stance. Positioning assault, quick shield block, sudden leap. Agile grace. Yeah, here's one of those duelists of like just one-handed weapon with a free hand. Debilitating shot, disarming twist, disruptive stance. Mirror shield. Whoa. Mirror shield. When an opponent casts a spell that targets you critically fails. That when casting a spell that targets you critically fails a spell attack roll against your AC, and when you have a shield raise, you reflect the spell back against the triggering opponent. Just saying. Pretty cool. Alright, all this looks great. I mean, it is what I thought it was going to be. Obviously, with the benefit of Pathfinder 2nd Edition is that there's just more combat mechanics to kind of work with. You got a 3-action whirlwind strike. At 18th level, you critically succeed if you roll 19 on a die, as long as it's a success otherwise. So added, similar to, we get there, I think I call it brutal critical in 5th edition. All right, 20th level, let's look at these and then we'll call it a day. Boundless reprisals. The 6th sense for the flow of combat. You can quickly react to any situation required. At the start of each enemy's turn, you gain a reaction you can only use during that turn. That's insane. There's been a number of reactions and actions gifted by feats in this class that, with the right build, that's crazy. You're going to be moving and hitting all over the place. You are permanently quickened, I believe, which gives you a 4th action, and you can only use that 4th extra action only to strike. Still bonkers. So those are the 220. That's insane. Yeah, I mean, so like I said, wasn't looking for anything special. I didn't dive into some of the high level stuff, but obviously if you're thinking about playing a fighter, take a look at and kind of, this is definitely a class you should plan out kind of your skill tree as much as you can, you know, to maybe 8th or 10th level at least, so that you're building correct feats on top of one another, because they obviously, like, they all interact in some way, and there's just a massive amount of customization based on completely how you want to play combat, like how you want to, I think mainly for story reasons. Like if you're the duelist, or if you're a huge gladiatorial 2-handed weapon fighter, or blah blah blah. This class will mean probably a little bit more when we get to look at equipment and see all the different weapons available. I might end up trying to port over my favorite 5th edition character that I've never gotten to play. I'm hoping to be able to play him soon in a game. But I might try to port him over. He's a fighter, and maybe when we get to chapter 6 and look at the equipment a little bit more, we can take a look and maybe port him over to Pathfinder 2nd edition and at like level 5 or 6 or something. So that's it. That's it for the fighter. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and this first look at the Pathfinder 2nd Edition fighter class, why not drop a like on the video? If you're interested in more content from me attempting to learn Pathfinder 2nd Edition, why not go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can know whenever a new video gets uploaded or whenever I decide to stream live to go through this, and we can interact with chat and we can hang out. Wouldn't that be a blast? Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comments of this video, or you can reach out on Twitter at @ZachHall_. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time when we check out The Monk. I am specifically looking for some things with the monk that we will talk about in that video. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Hopefully it will be up in the next day or two. Thanks so much.